The Ring of Dainthar Dween, Book 1. Malach King and the Thrice Cursed Ring. Fate, far-sighted daughter of Time, life-weaver, chose Malach, son of Mathed, as High Telach, king beyond kings, Earl of the Aolish, chieftain, renowned in all time as the first of the ring-wearers. Malach, orphaned, was raised by his people, the Wheelide Isal, until he became a man full, and in full manhood he was much like his father, strong, daring, knowing naught of fear. Malach stood above most men. Gold fell his locks, first always to laugh. Yet unlike his father, he would first look for peace, with a voice tempered and sweet, gifted with music, though the magic of the Baith shone less eagerly from him. In his 16th year, Caedwald, ruling Telach of the Wheelide Isal, died, and Malach was resolved to take his place. The Wheelide Isal were strange among the Aolish, for instead of choosing one of the Telach's kin, any man of the Tela may become Telach, should he first prove himself equal to the past kings. Some men chose the sword to prove themselves, some their own hands, others chose the harp and word. Through many means may a man become Telach of the Wheelide Isal. Malach chose to prove the worth of his blood by bull-leaping the white bull Don Coracht, who before killed any man who stood in his field. 10 times he charged Malach, son of Mathed, but each time with grace Malach grabbed his horns as they were lowered and vaulted the great bull, landing unscathed, until at the 11th hurdle Don Coracht submitted to him meekly. For this he was named Malach Deft Hand, and made Telach. As Telach, his Tela thought it proper for him to seek a wife, yet the young king did not, for in his dreams Malach was tormented with the sight of a great storm far off, born from beyond the sea, that would sink forever Ioland and its peoples. So in fear of the storm, Malach pursued not a wife, but sought out the wise man of Isle Melach, great friend of the great Mathed, and the wise man advised the Telach thusly: Dreams are seldom wrong, for in dreams we look on the world with eyes clear, though in waking our sight is again clouded. A dream may tell you clearly what is fated, but because we read them poorly, their message often goes unheeded. I believe you are right to fear this dream, and were even more right to tell me of it. I often aided your father in counsel. Now I shall guide you. The sea is the ancient enemy of our people, and many times she has tried to swallow whole these lands. Many times did your father protect us from this fate, but he has since passed beyond, and we are left unguarded from her wrath. By what means she seeks to break us, I think I know. The people of Ioland have long been divided by blood into many Telas, and long ago forgotten about the wide world. But this does not mean the wide world has forgotten them, and while the Aolish look inward, far sailors from Yorol who trade with this land have spread the knowledge of our divisions. Word will spread to conquerors, for there have always been those with an eye for blood and treasure. And to this land shall come war. Only through uniting against the storm can the Aolish survive. Malach, heeding this warning, won first the friendship of the mighty Amach Es, great warriors who live on Aglach Telocha, the river of the king, named the Aglach Roim before the reign of Malach. The Amach Es are few and build no walls, for they believe that these make men weak. In custom, they act as those of the Uarden, for in their stories they are descended from the lifeguard of Urt Dael, Telach of the Uarden, who was poisoned by his second wife to see her son take his seat before the son of his first. When the guard of Urt Dael sought to hide the first son, she raised the Uarden to violence. The guard fought all the Tela for 5 days, could not break them nor be broken themselves, and so they gathered their wives and escaped with their ward, settling atop a hill beside the Aglach Roim. The men of Amach Es hold Urt Dael's bloodline as sacred, allowing only the first son to rule as king. For their part, the Uarden tell that Urt was cruel, taking his second wife against her will, and that his first son was of the same stock. Malach then swiftly conquered the Uarden, who were divided in the choosing of their next telach between two brothers, making both his supplicants, taking next the wee Agla, and then the people of Helm Hylas, people not properly Aeolish, but who came over the sea long ago from Yrol, and settled in the land between Isle Melach and the sea. And though they carry themselves in an Aeolish manner, speaking the language of the isle mixed with their own, long forgotten one, in a harsh tongue unpleasant to the ear as the land they claim, for little grows between the sea and the mountains, and have dwelled in that barren land for generations, they do not number as one of the Aeolish Tella. Malach had no difficulty in subjugating them, gaining dominion over all the east, and proclaiming himself High Telach of Yoland. The western Tellas grew afraid of Malach and his sway over the isle, and moved together, swearing oaths of brotherhood. The Telachs of the west gathered in the halls of the Bolam, for they were the nearest to Malach, and their hatred for his father terrible. In their halls feasted the wee Kantara, the Koltabar, the Gol, Solal, Londar Norna, Londar, and the Drocht Balon. As they gathered, each Telach demanded to be made High Telach, equal to Malach, to place the many war bands under their command, to be given a war tribute by the others. Each thought himself the only choice, and hoped to take from Malach his place, to sit as High Telach while all Aeolish bowed to his mead bench. The Telach spent 5 nights arguing about how to begin the king choosing. Each had wise men, charlatans, warriors, bards, and witches speak for them, but few could be heard speaking over the roar of shouting. And during the day the Telach's warband would fight in sudden battles to place their kin above all others, using their hands only, so not to spill blood and bring shame to their host. Soon the Bolam had no more mead for their guests, and the men grew restless, eager to go to war. On the 6th night, the Telach of the Londar Norna, Bran Kedidron, refused to have wise men speak for him, but spoke himself. And in his speaking, he spoke not unharshly about other Telachs, especially the character of the Drocht Balon, who in his eye were vile for separating his kin, the Londar, from his own Tella. Hearing these words of spite, the Telach of the Drocht Balon, Kelach, was brought to such a rage that he left the mead hall and gathered his men for revenge, placing themselves before the door. When Bran left the mead hall, the Drocht Balon rushed forward and grabbed him, taking him before the waiting king Kelach, who demanded blood be paid for Bran's words. The men of the Drocht Balon formed 2 circles, with spears facing in and out, that he might not flee, nor his men help him. Bran agreed to the duel, so long as he was allowed his spear and shield. These were swiftly brought to him, but Kelach took no weapon and used his fists. As soon as Bran held his arms, Kelach was on him, and Bran could not stop the blows, nor his men reach him, and he died beneath Kelach's hands, his helm crushed. Kelach, aware that the Telachs would fear him and banish him from their host, called them back to the mead hall to give reason for his actions. But they would not come unless they brought their house guard, and he came alone. Kelach agreed, for it was only through the Telachs that he would be proclaimed High Telach. He stood before the Tella, on the table given for his people, and spoke his defense. At this table I sat and listened, as the man whose blood now covers my hands spoke vile treachery. I listened as he named my blood to be the illness which has weakened the Aeolish to their present state. But if my blood be so weak, why have his people not driven mine from this island? Why is his blood on my fists and not mine on his spear? I shall not claim that his blood saps Yoland of its strength, only his temper, so rash and vile, a failing which many Aeolish do possess. But what of mine? I have just killed a man over words, and many will laugh as I speak of temper. You will call me traitor to the guest right we have been given by the Bolam through their food and drink. You were here as well when he cast dung words at my Tella, and all bore witness to my temperament. Rather than kill the man with my hands where he stood, which I have shown to be an easy task for me, I left this hall to spare the shame it would bring my host to have his death in their hall, so near his bed. Guest right extends beyond these walls, and to the extensive lands of the Bolam, and yet I killed him in the lands of our host you will next claim. I did so within the proper grounds of guest right, for I killed not to revenge myself, but for the honor of our host. For though it is wrong to kill in the very home of my host, so near his bed, It is more wrong to permit such rudeness to my host go unpunished. Each of you heard the filth which he used to fill the home of our host, and yet you allowed him to continue to speak, allowed him to continue soiling the home of your host, while I alone took action and avenged him. If there are any among you who believe that I have acted unjustly, that I violated the guest right, let them come before me. Let us see those who would falsely claim to champion our hosts, the Un Bolam. I will accept all challenges. But know in your heart that you are false before me, the champion true. To the men of the Un Londar Norna, you may challenge me at any time without fear of falsehood. I have killed your Telach and a man of your people. All rights to combat are yours. It is the temper of the dead man which threatens us, Yolish. In his mind, the suffering of his people is the fault of mine. Our people have had peace for many generations. The same may not be said for his kin. They have made many battles for control of each other's Tela, as recently as 10 years past. The Yolish have lived scattered for too long. Only under the threat of Malach, Telach of the East, have we come together to appoint our own High Telach. We each claim the lofty mantle of High Telach, but none of us know what that shall be. We have no agreement. If the High Telach will reign for one battle or for all his life, if we pay him a tribute of silver or of gold. I hold that the High Telach should rule over all of us, that we might end this petty squabbling which we were born into, to hold judgment over each Tela and Telach. I will be the High Telach. I will rule each of you and judge fairly, for I am strongest, and if any man doubts my claim, they are welcome to test my arms and do battle with me. I will not refuse him. Kings, my case is yours to judge. The Telachs were afraid, unsure of what to make of his claims. Well they knew of the renown of his strength, and were witness to the eagerness with which he killed. But more they feared his words, which had placed him beyond reproach. They sat silently, afraid that now they must yield to him the highest seat, to stand above them and hold judgment over them, because they lacked the words to answer him. Until the young son of the Telach of the Un Salal, who had seen only 14 winters, but was known for the skill of his tongue, and whose youth made him unafraid of the strength of Kelach, spoke. Your words have in them truth. Here sit all the great Telachs of Iolan, and none of them defended their host from the unclean words which were spoken in his hall. You are right in defending this house, and none of us would be just in our judgment had we ruled against you. Yet you are unwise if you believe this single action gives the right of the highest kingship of the land to you. It is true that you alone acted, and shame will forever weigh on those here today. But a good king must have more in him than strength. A Telach must have wisdom, pass judgment justly, and be not rash. Yet we here seek not to name a Telach, but a Telach above Telachs, High King of all the Eolish people, one who could pass judgment on our kings, of all mountains and oceans, all pebbles and streams. It is them the High Telach must rule. Each Telach is connected to his land. Thus the High Telach must be connected to all Ioland. The wind must take him as its king and proclaim his will wherever it breathes. The trees must bow and the mountains kneel as he comes. The flowers bloom in delight, the waters shield him, the grasses be his sword. It is them that must be convinced, they who must bow. I propose that each Telach who desires to be named High King must go to the river which flows at the foot of Isle Bolam, and let the land choose our High Telach for us. To this the Telachs agreed, eager that Kelach not be crowned as High King in that hour, praising the speaker whose name was Noreen. And the Telach gathered their retinue to ride to the river Noreen had named, a ride of 3 days. Kelach was enraged of having his position rejected by the other kings, but he was determined, and conceived a plan to trick the Telachs. Noreen at the same time had talked to his father, and promised him that if he were named the next Telach of the Un Salal over his brothers, he would deliver his father rule over all the island, to which the Telach agreed. Kelach's plan was this, that he would wade into the river, and ask the land who should stand as High Telach, and a number of his warband hidden would reply, Kelach. Though renowned for his strength, he was also shrewd, and he thought that Noreen had planned to do much the same for fear of his power, and had his waiting men armed. His suspicion was not ill-founded, as Noreen planned to ensure his father was chosen, knowing the other Telachs would plan their own means to fake the favor of the land. The boy sent his men ahead to find a wise man, and to tell him the other Telachs planned to become the High King without the approval of the land they would rule, that he was needed to show the true will of the land. His men flattered the wise man, and made him forget all his wisdom, that soon he believed the Unsalal were warriors chosen by the Baith themselves. When all kings had come to the river, they were greeted by this wise man, who offered them his judgment. All save Kellach agreed to submit to him, who instead waded into the river and cried aloud for the earth and water to select its high king, and swiftly came the reply, Kellach. But Noreen saw through this, and sent his men to the forest, where they discovered Kellach's warriors. Fighting erupted, as many men were wounded. But at length these were forced from the forest, and Kellach was disgraced. The wise man cursed him, that no matter how hard he might try, by strength or by guile, he would never become High Telach. He would only serve those appointed above him. The wise man then gave his judgment, and the Unsalal were placed above all peoples of the alliance. Their Telach named High Telach. For this, Kellach in his heart named the Unsalal his enemies forever. The kings returned to the home of the Unbalam and began their war planning. This took little time, as all Telachs but Kellach were united under their High Telach. They left the halls of the Unbalam a fortnight after beginning the king choosing. In their march, the Unbalam took the vanguard, pride of place given to them for hosting the other Tela, and the others followed in no set order, save only that the Drocht Balon followed after the host, for Kellach had no love of the other Tela. Their gathering had taken much time, and Malach had come to know their purpose. Swiftly he set out against them, with all the peoples of eastern Yoland. To him came the strong spears of Amach-Es and the many swords of the Wiarden, the stout shield wall of the Wiagla and the haggard hunters of Helm Hylas, those desperate people who long languished between mountains which drank away the water and seas too salty to drink. The people of Helm Hylas had fled to that barren land from some violence 200 years before the life of Malach. So great was their need that they settled without complaint in the dry lands behind the Isle Melach and named it a paradise. The people of Helm Hylas, though they came in number, had become few from years of want, and their villages grew empty, bar the cold chief's hall. Their homes became small. No crop can grow in such a land, and flocks struggled to prosper there, and by necessity the men of Helm Hylas began to steal from others to sate their need, so that the Wiarden and Wiagla came to fear the coming of night, when in darkness raiding bands would seep into their lands in search of ready food and livestock to take with them to their bleak homes. And in their raids, that which they came to prize above all else, above sheep, above wives, above gold, were the cattle well tended by Aeolish husbandmen. Any man who brings back a bull was raised above his fellows and given lands. Their raids for pride and place could lead them far from their home, once encircling all Yoland in a raid which lasted a full year. Through long years they became similar to the Aeolish, but separated they still were. In the grandest hall reigned their Telach, whose blood came from the helmsman who guided them to that land. In Malach's time they were led by Telach Mabeb. She was both cunning and fierce, and brought to Malach many lean warriors, but also the cursed boy Reich. She presented the boy to the High Telach, naming him the guaranteer of victory as she spoke of his past. Reich was born in death, his mother passing from the difficult birthing even as he took his first breaths, and his father, distraught, placed his anguish and pain for losing his wife, and mixed together with hatred at the mewling child which was her death with his very soul to name a powerful curse upon the mewling babe, that for all his life he would be made to carry the dead which he'd made on his heart, a black mark unseen to fester there and weigh on him until life was but weariness. The curse placed against one so new to the world, his father fell lifeless on the floor. At the age of 15, Reich had killed many men, for his queen and the tempest of rage which lived inside him. Though not yet a man, he could battle 10 and see victory, the speed of his limbs so quick that no blade had ever left its mark on him. Malach placed this boy in the vanguard as his host left the hall of Hala to wrestle the western Telachs for dominion of the isle. He set his warband in the woods of the Unbalam, which the host of the many Telachs neared carelessly, for they were in their own lands, and had not thought to place scouts on their path. Malach fell upon the men of Unbolam with sudden ferocity, the way a storm arises on the sea, and the Unbolam ran, having no order in their forces. Their Telach killed early in the fighting. Raich felled all who came against him, and the vanguard was turned. But a great host lay beyond, and these men swiftly brought themselves into a shield wall, for they did not know that Malach's men were unorderly from their battle with the van. The Drocht Ballon did not join the shield wall, instead moved to a knoll to see the shape of the battle. Malach brought his men back into order and led only a small number of them to charge. And when the host of the west saw them, they scoffed, thinking the Unbolam cowards for breaking before so few. Such was their confidence that they broke their shield wall and charged Malach, quickly surrounding him and his men. But they were deceived, and their eagerness betrayed them as the rest of Malach's force charged from the trees and hit them hard behind. They were shattered, not by the force of Malach, but through their haste, and the host of Malach went far in their pursuit, killing all those within their grasp, until at last they were alone on the field, except for the Drocht Ballon, for Kellach had seen the battle and would not run before speaking to Malach. Malach's host, fresh in victory, surrounded the Drocht Ballon and gave no path for them to flee by, eager to see their victory completed. Kellach called loudly for Malach to come to him, and upon his arrival he spoke. "Hail Malach, son of Mathred, son of Math. By force of arms the field is yours, and the island waits with nervous eyes to see who our first Telach will be. I stand here as the first of the Aeolish to bear witness to the kind of ruler you are. The weight of time now set upon your shoulders, and all days after this will bear your mark, even to the end of this island. So be just and true in thought and deed, so all sons of this land hold your name as the height of what a man may become. But if your reign is false, and justice is not loved by you, then I shall be the first of all the Aeolish to curse your name, and we will have war between us. Be not assured that in this fight victory will be yours. Though you have defeated all the sons of the West, before you stand the sons of Ballon, we who are descended from that great warrior. The host, who were laid low by the skill of your arms, were not always united. For we were many Tela, and between us there lay deep hatred from time past. We chose to end our enmity to protect our own from the power of your arms. In this choosing, new enmity was born, for I was best suited for the leading of all the West. But the other Telachs feared my own power, and took from me my right. I will admit to you that after they took this from me, I sought to reclaim my right through dishonest means. I was not alone in doing this, for the Unsalal made a wise man foolish, and had him choose the high Telach without proper knowledge, an insult to our land. I chose an honest trickery, and used my own men to win what is by right mine. But all kings conspired against me and used dishonest trickery to take the title from me. I have seen the battle that you have fought against these dishonest kings, and I acknowledge you to be the high Telach. I freely lay aside the right I had at your feet. Though, had I faced you, know that it would have been me who would rule the Aeolish in your stead. I now place before you your first judgment. I ask you to punish the Telachs who dishonored me, and to deliver me the son of the Unsalal, named Norin. For he is the one who brought the Telachs to dishonor. High King, the land is yours, and now you must earn its people. Justice lies at your feet. What is your judgment?" Malach had listened in patience while Kellach spoke, his wounds of battle still bloody, and when he finished Malach gave his judgment. "I have heard much of you, Kellach, son of Kol, and the strength of your arm is not to be doubted. I had not heard of the strength of your tongue, however, and in all measures it should be counted as your strongest weapon. The sons of the West have nothing to fear from me. I shall not lay them low. Instead, I will raise them to new standing. I am plagued by dreams of a storm born over the sea, coming from the east to break this isle. The strength of all the Aeolish is needed to turn away the storm. I am glad that you have surrendered before my host, for the Drocht Ballon are mighty warriors whose strength is needed for our future. You have asked me for judgment. That I give freely. In my judgment, both you and the other Telachs acted wrongly. You, by your own admission, denied the land its proper place as judge, and they, by fooling a wise man, and believing the very foolishness which they had given him. Therefore I command you, and all Telochs who engaged in this foolishness, to perform penitence before the river where this trickery took place, and to ask the river and forest to pardon you. As for the son of Unsalal, whose name is Norin, I will not deliver him to you, for I know that his life would not be long in your hands, and the death you would give him he does not deserve, for both of you sought to cheat the other Telochs. Then this is my judgment, that though Norin shall not be delivered to you, I do have a sentence to pass against him. After you have asked for penitence, you, Kelach son of Kol, shall come to my hall at the hill of Hala, where you will become my champion, to deliver my justice to those who would stand against it, and my ear will forever listen to your counsel. But Norin, even after his penitence, will be forever barred from the hill of Hala, where the high Telach will forever reign. This is my judgment. Kelach was pleased at the words of Malach, and swore to him that Malach would forever be his king, and commanded all the Drocht Balon to do the same. Having sworn their oaths, the Drocht Balon went forth to find those who had run from the armies of Malach, and slew them. Now there was no army which could stand against Malach, and all the Aolish paid tribute to the Uile de Sal. Their power was great, and in victory his men began to seek again for him a wife, so their power might continue for all time. And though by tradition he was to search among his own Tela, or else he might have taken for a wife any woman from the powerful Tela, he chose for himself the daughter of the Amach-Es, in whose blood flowed an ancient line of kings. The Aolish are not like those on Ural, where the wife's house pays the husband's, but indeed it is the opposite, and of the Aolish the Amach-Es demand the greatest proofs of a future husband. So that even though Malach was the high Telach, and they paid a tribute to him, they would not give her to be his wife without receiving these proofs. Malach came before the fathers of the Amach-Es and spoke. Fathers, your age and wisdom has let you stand above all men of the Amach-Es, to render your judgment upon them. I am no son of your Tela, yet I come before you, for in your keeping lies that which I yearn to possess. I have already in my hands that which no man has ever held, for now the Aolish people hold me to be their high Telach, and all people are to be my people. I may no longer claim any Tela as my own. To do so is to place them first and all others into servitude. I must judge fair and true. So the Aolish will become one people, the way iron links are forged into mail. My future will be the future of my people. My actions will stand for ages. If I am just and good, then my people will be for all time. But if I fall into cruelty and unkindness, greed and treachery, they will never rise above who they are now, and will only fall into greater cruelty and mistrust, becoming beasts of the land. As I stand, I am alone, one man with the burdens of all peoples weighed on his shoulders. I can bear this burden for a time. I am still young. Yet youth is only a cloud, soon fleeting, and age, hidden behind it, soon descends. I must have sons to take my burdens and continue my work. With them, the safety of the Aolish will be secured, their happiness guaranteed. There are many who would gladly see their daughters given to me that they might secure their place above all others and worm their way into my counsel. Therefore, I must place my trust in old friends who joined me willingly. I have long heard stories of your daughter Neola. The Aolish speak of her and wonder that such beauty should belong to mortal man, and not the Baith alone. Many have come before you, asking for her hand. Telachs have come seeking her, but they have each been turned away. I am no Telach. I am the Telach above Telachs, king beyond kings, and I have not come here to set you above all the Aolish. Rather I come to show them an example of a just people, and raise them to your height. Show them your justice, and allow me to have her as a bride. The fathers replied to him, Malach Deft Hand, it is true that you have in your possession that which no mortal man has ever held. You have all the Aolish under your protection, and you have the love of our daughter, Neola Fairhaired, who has long seen you as her only rightful match. You desire her, and she desires you, yet we cannot permit this pairing today, for you have not given us proofs of your worthiness. You know nothing of her, save of her beauty, and beauty is milk, either consumed at once, or else spoiled with time. Where will you be, Malach, king of kings, when her beauty has vanished? It is a magpie who finds something new and beautiful when old silver is tarnished. You must be no magpie, for you are Malach, High Telach, and King of Kings, and to resign to this fate would be most evil for our favorite daughter, one we must avoid for her and all the Eolish. You spoke truly when you named her as beautiful as the Baith. She is the morning sun, and the morning sun will reach brilliant noon if you let it, before dusk falls. Neola is to be the mother of tomorrow, and deserves a husband worthy of her. There is more to her than what Eoland knows. You have lands, but these will bring her no joy. You have power, but power cannot love her. You have warbands, but these cannot feed her. You have wisdom, but it cannot clothe her. Malach, son of Mathred, son of Math, what will you bring her, that she may not fear these? You may sustain her today, but what of tomorrow? What can you offer her besides your desire? Malach raged at their reply, for refusal awoke something within him which had never before stirred. A vanity gained an unceasing victory. The questions of the fathers felt to him undeserved, and for the first time he felt the stinging humiliations of defeat. Yet no man conquers through surrender, and Malach desired above all to prevail, his will made of strong iron, so he gave battle with the fathers. Have I found an opponent eager for battle against he who has not known defeat? Very well, for I shall not shirk from battle when it is offered so freely to me. Do they think me so skilled in battle of arms that I would neglect to train my tongue for war? This is a battle I have prepared for. They will not find me as green as they would hope me. You have told me, by your own halting breath, that Neola believes me to be her only worthy match. And I believe the same. Yet you would refuse us each other. I am told it was for our youth and her beauty that we are denied, for fears I will grow tired of her as she grows old. You fear that I might lose my seat, that my mead bench would be burned and my people laid low. These are just fears, however impossible. One day the earth itself may shake me of my love or my power. It may happen. Perhaps the Baith shall rise from the earth to unseat me. Yet that day, black day, will not find me eager to submit. I am the High Telach, king above all kings. On the day that I die, I will still be the High Telach, king beyond kings, and she beside me, my wife. I have heard of her beauty, it's true, so have all who live on our island. I am not alone in possessing this knowledge, and of those who live around you, none speak of anything else. If the people of this land do not know more of her, it is because you have hidden her from us. Teach me of her if that be your requirement for her hand. Bring me a champion that I may defeat him, if you worry of my strength. Bring all your armies against mine, if you doubt, that my warband might defend her. But if you hide her from me, know that this land belongs to me and my people, and we will find her. You named me and my lineage. Each word you spoke true. I am Malach, the only man to hold all the Eolish in his grasp. Now any man may walk from the west to the east without fear or blood feud by my power. My father was Mathred, the one who left no feud time to fester, and when the sea stole from him his wife, he conquered it by his rage. The sun and moon were separated by his hand. His blood runs hotter than the blood of any mortal man. My father's father was a man of no ordinary power either, for he was the wisest of the wise men, so wise that a Baith woman wed him in order to learn his knowledge. This is the family you seek to destroy. Know that in our blood runs the magic of the Baith, and we will not know defeat. Give her to me that we may be friends and live in peace. Others would tremble before these pronouncements, but the fathers of Amach Es took no notice of them. One gave a call, and from a door in the meeting hall came forth Neola, daughter of the Amach Es, who had been listening to the talking from behind a door, and she spoke to the High Telach. We also are the children of ancient lineage, warriors born for the battle. Our people have never surrendered to the enemy. We have never left the field before our foes. Bring your armies, king beyond kings. Bring all the Eolish here to war with us, and you will find us ready to fight, each man and woman of us. You will find me in the warband, my spear bristling in the line. We fear not one foe nor any multitude. They do not deny you my hand for hatred of you, nor from spite, they who were the first to fight with you in your wars. Forget not our blood spilt for your conquest. They desired to learn what your ceaseless wars had made you. Your eagerness to look past our battles beside you is a worry, but even this is not why you are denied my hand. You are Malach, son of Methred, son of Meth. The blood of Eolin's greatest heroes is yours. They know well your blood well storied, and do not hide me from yourself for the heroes of your past. They deny you my hand because the man you were when you began your conquest is not the man you are today. Your conquest was begun for fear of us, all peoples of this land, that the black storm which rises in the east would carve us away, and so sought to unify and bring us together to face this storm. The Malach who stands here is not that Malach who took us to war, for he was humble and unproud. When your host marches down upon us, and we fall beneath unceasing hordes, what will happen to you next? Do you believe that I will leave willingly with my people slain without grave house above them? Will your people who follow you continue to, when their Telach has become a common thief? Your wife-taking shall be the greatest crime, and the songs sung even until the weakening of the isle shall name you Blackheart. Such action would be your undoing and the ruin of all before the storm. I am to be the mother of hope, but my husband must be my equal. It is true that there is little known of me by the people of this land. But this was by design, for in keeping secret my life they have allowed me to live as others do. I see that the only one who could be my husband is you, a man of destiny equal to the fate placed on me. But only the Malach who began in hopes of saving the isle deserves me, not the arrogant conqueror who stands before us today. My life is given to great events, spun by fate alone. Though fate demands I be surrendered to long-planned designs, the fathers are mortal men, and will not yield so easily. We are prepared to fight fate until she yields, as your father once gave battle to the sea. We will not yield to fate, and we will not yield to you. Malach was silent for a great time, rooted to his place as a tree, but thought hard on the storm of words which Neola had raised against him. Even after she walked out of the mead hall, when he had gathered his thoughts, and spoke once more, his voice held its spirit, though it had lost the rage it once held. Fathers, I have spoken rashly, and in my speech I have fallen into great vices, for I am a man who has dreamed great and achieved great. So in the conquest of my dreams I forgot the waking day and my place in it. I am merely a man who forgot his place, and was seduced by his own blood, convinced of its righteousness. I am not Math, whose cunning entrapped foxes and whose wisdom confounded owls. Nor am I Mathred the undefeatable, who guarded this land through the virtue of his arms. I am neither of these. I am Malach, and that will be enough. The pride which I have brought to your home has shamed me. I was mistaken to think that the men of Amach Es had broken their faith with me when they had never broken their shield wall in battle. We are brothers, not by blood, but by hard days hard won, though I have brought shame on that bond. I ask you to receive my repentance and forgive my arrogance. Permit us to move past my folly and on to our work, the preservation of the Yolish from what is sure to come. Your daughter is yours. I will not take her from you by force of arms. Such an action is unworthy of our friendship. Never again will I hold myself in such bad airs. I will stand as the first among equals, not a master but a father, a gentle hand, not the iron rod. Brothers, I am in your debt for refusing me. I wake from the long slumber of dreams to find my friends in need. You have spoken of fate. Of this terror I believe no man is bound. I have seen a great number of men die for fear of fate. If your daughter is held in its chains, tell me that I might break them for you. The father spoke to him, joyed. Malach, we did not seek to humble you, to laud our power over you. We have none but that humble kind which is formed by shared lives with friends. Remember that you are the High Telach, and that you must still protect those who call you king and judge them too. You are to lead all men of this island, and so do not fear to use that power which you hold over them. But remember you are also a man, as all men are, fated to die, that your power is for your fellow's safety and not his subjugation. Fate should not be made light of, for she is not the breeze but the ocean. She will feed her favored and drown those she scorns. She would not be ignored, for she has a great love of traps, and only in keeping her in your sight will you avoid them. We caution you not to think so little of her who has given you much. He who is king today will tomorrow be hungry. That ever is her device. Malach, fate has grabbed Neola as a hunting hound grabs hold of a hind, and fate will keep her. She was born with doom weighing over her. For days her mother screamed in pained labor as we rushed to summon the wise men of Isle Melach. He soothed the mother with herbs and brought Neola into this world, but would not long hold the child, for he pronounced that a dark fate ruled her, that she is to die in childbirth. Her husband will have one heir only, that her child would have no parent, and that the fate of this land will be bound to that child for all time. This is her doom. This we have told her, and she has accepted it, but only if her husband is worthy of what fate has set upon her. Malach, knowing this end and keeping the light of humility as your guide, do you still wish to take our daughter as your wife?" Malach did not fear any fate, and was still steadfast in his desire for her, agreed to pay any bride price for her. This the fathers forgave. His price was paid in his knowledge of their shared fate. Malach was eager to be wed, but even so gave the date of his marriage in 3 months from that day, that his people might gather to the Hall of Hala to see his wedding, and so he had time to give proper observance to his fathers. The Yolish hold this law amongst all its peoples, except those of Helmhylus, that the fathers who have died hold strong powers over the living, watching over them and protecting them to such a degree that they may appear on the earth as guides for their children. They often take vows on their fathers, cursing themselves should they fail in upholding these. Yet never do they invoke their mothers, for they gave them life, and they dare not vow against that gift. During the most important moments of their lives they ensure their fathers are at ease, out of fear that in their displeasure they will seek to harm the living. In this time runners were sent to each of the Tella of Eoland, calling them to the wedding of the High Tellach. All the Tella were summoned, save the boy Noreen, and each Tella came, eager to sit near the mead bench of Malach. To the Hall of Hala, home of the wee ladies all, came the Amach Es, the Drocht Balon, the wee Contara, the Ungol, the Unsalal, the Unlondar Norna, the Unlondar, the wee Arden, the wee Agla, Coltabar, Bolam, and those of Helmhylus. Great gifts they brought, each in hopes to shine brightest. They forgot not their defeat before his forces, nor his mercy. Each were welcomed by Malach with great solemnity and friendship, not to diminish them with his power, but to welcome earnestly friends to his hall. There also was the great friend of Methred, the wise man of Isle Meloch, who of all wise men of that day was the greatest. There is no ceremony in an Iolish wedding, only a feast with a great many speeches of friendship and bonds. And in a feast of such importance as Malach's, the feast was of such size as would not be seen again for many years. 50 cattle were slaughtered for each Tella, fowl of many kinds in a large number. A great herd of deer were hunted for the table, a lake of mead, so that no man knew thirst. With all Tellas seated before him, Malach made laws that the Aeolish would abide to always. He named outlaw any man who took a wife against her will, which was the cause of many feuds. The feast lasted a fortnight in endless revelry. So well did the mead satiate each guest that ancient feuds were drowned by Malach's generosity, except for Kelloch's hatred of Noreen, though it lay forgotten during the feast. Indeed, he was rarely a man given to jollity. Mead did not bring him happiness, but instead made him more fierce. But in the Hall of Hala all were joyed by the union of Malach and Neola. It was on the last night of the feast, when all were most joyous, that Kelloch stood upon the mead bench of the highest table and spoke. "In all time we are most blessed, for never have we gathered together in such manner and such friendship. Indeed, never before has friendship lived so freely among our peoples. This friendship belongs only to one man, who by his strength and charity gave us this great gift. No gift we give him will repay that boon. Friendship belongs to Malach. Peace belongs to Malach, to Malach, to Malach. Brothers, for I feel not the illness in naming each of you my own brother that I would have felt before this feast. We are by him bound to peace, and he who tarnishes the memory of this day will forever be foe to all, breaking a solemn oath of guest right by which we are bound. No man may break guest right while they stay in the hall of their host. The host promises to feed and guard those in his hall, and the guest vows to never take arms against those who share his hall. The Hall of Hala is not bound by these walls, but its borders extend through all the land of the Yolish, to the very waves which crash on our shores. For these are now the borders of his land, and we are guests in it. And Eoland shall be his hall so long as his people stand, and his heirs walk the green grass. I vow that the people of this land will always be one people, so long as his heirs live, and that they who design to take that which rightly belongs to Malach or Malach's heirs shall find their desire betrayed and turned to ash in their mouths, their deaths swift and cruel. This my first vow, one to be kept all days, to Malach, to Malach, to Malach. Here is a bride most beautiful, most kind, to wed the man who has given us so much. May she bring him all he has sought, as he has brought us that which we have long sought. Any man who seeks her will be my foe. Though the mountains fall and this land breaks, I will pursue vengeance against any who touch her and all who covet her. Any who harms her shall not live more than a year. She is rightfully Malach's, the High Telach. To harm her is to harm the very earth. This my second vow, which will last all my days. To Malach, to Malach. All you know my strength, and all know my pride. These vows I invoke are not hollow. Ever shall I follow them, though I wear thin. The peace we have must always endure for the sake of our people, but if broken, the lifeblood of Malach will always take revenge on those who break it. Ever will their designs fall before Malach's. My last vow before all who stand here, that those who betray the peace of Malach will not live to see their designs achieved. To Malach. His solemn oaths evoked, Kellach returned to the revelry as each of his oaths were sworn also by the host. It was never before that the peoples of the island would hold one belief among all, for the island is large and a great many people live there, but they all held Malach as their High Telach and were eager to serve him without anger in their hearts. It was after the speech of Kellach that peace lived with all the Aeolish people. The wise man of Isle Melach, after a time of revelry, stepped before the mead bench of Malach and spoke. Malach, son of Mathred, son of Math, you are now the High Telach and shepherd of a great flock. I am called a wise man, and with my wisdom I see that you are a great man, to whom fate has given much, and who fate holds central to her plans. It is proper to give to great men great gifts, for they are most deserving of them. 2 great gifts you have. The first, your wife. They will ever be jealous of her. You hold the love of your people, and have given them peace, this being the second great gift which fate has given you. Now I hope to give a third, a work of supreme majesty. Long have I lived, and now there is not a hair on my body which has not gone to silver. My body is no longer the strength of youth, but the illness of age. It is indeed a great difficulty to stand and speak to such a crowd of the strong, many of whom will not gain my age, but fall in glorious battle. When in my ruddy youth I learned great wisdom, and stood at the side of your father, Mathred, I first dreamed this dream. For though in my possession was great knowledge, ever envious of the boons which fate gave so willingly to Mathred, I desired to be thus blessed. I began to collect all the wondrous things of this earth, to study them, my journey taking me far from this land and into the world of demons, creatures of great horror and dread which fed upon the wicked. Yet I walked not alone, and with Mathred at my side we stole the ends of the rainbow, the sound of a cat's footfall, the redness of the sea, the voice of the winds, the stars which shone in the daylight. I promised my friend the boon was a weapon that he might defeat the ancient enemy of the Aeolish, the circling sea. But I held a secret shame, that with the boon I might become his equal in all things. These things we took from the world, and through many years I worked to forge them together. But though I labored long, my skill was incapable of such creation. The dream eluded me. Now much time has passed. Years bloomed and withered before me, and though I did not surrender my pursuit of this boon, I had other tasks which demanded my labor, my mind ever driven to the conquest of knowledge in all its parts. Malach, in these long years, I gained the power which I had sought, and through my knowledge I forged together these wonders into a single ring. This ring, of all gifts most great, holds within it a great power for good fortune. Ever shall the wearer's possessions increase. From silver it shall breed gold. The wearer need only keep on this ring and witness as the good in his life increases with every day. This is the ring of fortune, of fate, of the High Telach, and is named the Ring of Dain Thardwin. Upon its face is the heart, king of beasts, and 3 gemstones make its crown, forged from perfect gold, woven in your blood to bind it forever to your line. All who would hold it will be remembered by the Yolish for all time, and stories of their life shall be passed along until the sea washes over the land and all is made anew. This boon has long been in my dreams, but I know that my age will soon take me, and I have deemed it fitting that the boon which I thought to make me Mathred's equal is better served in making you his superior. I have great wisdom, and have learned that I have no need for this ring. I have become Mathred's equal by my own power, but you must surpass him. He had not the great burden upon him as you do. He was the Telach of only one Tela, while you are Telach to all. He spent much time pursuing challenges, where you spend the time allotted you ruling. You and your line are the only true possessors of this ring. For you alone will the ring give abundance and not excess, fill all your needs and end your wants. King Malach, this is my gift to the line of Math. Such wonder was on each face of the host as they marveled at the boon given Malach, and each eye fixed hawkish gazes at the ring. The smallest glint of gold filled their deepest desires. The ring on Malach's finger hushed the host, and he began to speak, for the first time in a fortnight addressing the hall entire. In all the earth, of all tribes of men, we are the most blessed. Fortune has delivered us a time of ease and friendship, where we no longer grow strong from the conquest of our neighbor, but stronger by his peace. We have nothing to fear from his well-being and much to praise. The good fortune of one man is the good fortune of all his village. We are now one people as never before. The hungry wolf forms a mighty pack to hunt. I have seen his starvation, the doom of his kind, and I saw us scattered in his path. That is why I sought our peoples to become one. Let this doom come. It will find us ready for any burden. We will not starve. I am given 3 great gifts: loyalty, a wife, and a ring. These I have earned, and will continue to earn, for none of these are set in the sky, but must be won each day, or they will be lost. In the coming years, great trials will face our people. Only through these 3 great gifts can the Aeolish survive the doom. Through your loyalty we will form a war band of such size that no foe can face us. Our shield wall shall be unbreakable. Our war cry shall shake them to their bones, the pack unharmed from the hunt through its loyalty. My wife shall give me heirs to continue to guard the Yolish people, a line destined to guide our people through all time. This line she gives us shall have your loyalty. Their blood is my blood, and I bind you to aid them as you aid me. The ring, the final gift, most kindly given, will be the sign of my heirs. It is theirs to possess for all time, and will always find its way back to their hands. For theirs will be the only hands which may wield it. It will always bring ruin through excess to others who falsely hold it. With these 3 gifts, the kingdom of the Yolish begins. Well may it weather the storm which comes for it. Eternally it will be bound to my blood, eternally made by friendship of your peoples. Let us vow peace between ourselves, as I vow to protect all those who hold me their high Telach. I vow to love and uphold the virtue of my wife always. I call upon my ancestors to protect my line as it serves the people of this land. May they guide my children through all time. Now, as your high Telach, I call you to hold these oaths as solemnly as you hold your fathers. When dawn breaks, the feast will be over. Let no food be wasted, nor mead go undrunk. Hail, renowned guests! Hail, Eoland and the Hall of Hala! Thus the 3 great men spoke, and such was their possession and power that these words became law, immutable, held over all the isle. This great feast of tribes, which would never unite again, left the Hall of Hala in the dawn hour, each returning to their lands unmolested, bound by the peace of Malach, each in their hearts holding a secret, shameful desire, a secret violence against the peace. In short time, Neola grew heavy with the child of Malach, and the fathers of Amach-Es wept, knowing their daughter would soon die. Malach was unafraid of fate looming over his wife, and continued to govern the people of Eoland justly, and love his wife as he had promised to do. He would fawn over her in all hours of the day, filling every moment he could not govern with her laughter, carving her love onto his memory. Her labor was pained greatly, her screams lasting 3 days and 3 nights. All the birds of the air and beasts of the land were silent, awaiting the cry of Malach's heir. No mother gave birth during Niola's labor, that Malach's child would be born above their own. The child was born the 4th day of her labor, with the coming of the dawn. Niola lay, greatly weakened in her suffering, but as the fathers of Amach-Es gathered about her to ease her passing, they saw that she would not part from her child, and leave her alone in the world. Long she remained ill, but fierce was her fire. She did not perish, and grew stronger with each day. The child was named Ilulian, named after the red-yellow dawn flower which lives by the waters of the sea and ever greets the sun. Her face shone with all the beauty of all the isle, never crying, for joy eternal was her birthright, a gift given by all the Aeolish peoples to her father. In the peace of those times she grew quickly, and in her 5th year she had great locks of golden hair, which her mother had given to her, so that those in Hala named her Finnoan, which is gold-haired. Never did she know tears while Hala stood, and she roamed the woods and waters of the Wîlad Isal, and the lands of her people guarded her. No beast dared harm her, teaching her the songs of nature so that she might order the forests as she pleased. Malach was well pleased by Ilulian, her eyes bright with knowledge. Her joy brightened the hall of Hala, and all the court praised Malach and Niola for her temperament. Malach believed the fate given his wife destroyed, set aside for his family and people. Great was his joy when Niola was with child again, his final conquest of fate. As her 8th month passed, Malach called many of his friends to the hall of Hala to celebrate his second child, a son he hoped to be his successor. The wise men of Isle Meloch came to the hall, as well as Kelach and the fathers of Amach-Es, though they still feared fate. Yet ill fortune was stirring in the lands as Malach prepared his feast. Beyond the Isle Meloch, in barren lands between the mountains and the sea, greed festered in hearts. 5 years beneath Malach was to them wearying, for the good King Malach had outlawed their cattle raids, and gave to them instead prize cattle from his own herds, including the strong scions of the bull Don Karacht. Unable to name themselves warriors for completing feats of strength and bravery, the people of Helm Hylas could not claim honor in the eyes of their ancestors, and grew restless and hungry to do so once more. It was Telach Mebeb of Helm Hylas whose festering heart desired the ring of Malach. By its powers she would set the people of Helm Hylas above all others, and her above them. And though she feared the might of Malach and held his writ as sacred law, she could not withstand the demands of her desires, as they grew more powerful with the passing days. Her people, barred from raiding and hateful of living under the giving hand of Malach, were eager for glory, and Queen Mebeb, ruled by her greed, called her warriors to her hall, and in the night they left for a great raid. Malach had much to celebrate as his hall prepared for his second child. Joyous was his hall, the feast smaller only to that of his wedding. All his Tella, the Wîlad Isal, were at his hall, and the fathers and many warriors of the Amach-Es. Malach began the feast by speaking to all guests. Niola was not at his side, but beginning to give birth in her chambers. He spoke. Here again, the people of Yoland have gathered in peace to welcome my child to the world. Though we are greatly diminished in number from our earlier feasts, I am no less grateful for those who have arrived to the hall of Hala, the house of Niola the Fair, Ilulian Finnoan the Kind, and Malach King. In this hall will soon stand another to be welcomed. I eagerly await his arrival. 5 years have I ruled. 5 years has peace lived freely in our lands, and all have prospered by her grace. The Aeolish are well prepared for that which will come. Armed with this peace they shall prevail, though the trials are unknown. We have conquered greater things than men, old enmities which have stood as long as Aeoland. Fate so cruelly weaved against us, it is by our bond of brotherhood that this land knows peace. May peace reign alone for 1,000 years, and may men be born and be placed in their hallowed barrow without knowing anything else. My wife has given me a daughter who by her charm will keep these lands from chaos. Now she gives me a son whose arm will conquer those who break this peace. In all things we have fortune, in all things blessed. So strong have we become that my fears of the storm have been assuaged, and if the storm comes, our people will be unafraid. though its torrents shake the very roots of mountains, and the trees are uprooted. Peace is our shield, and safety is our sword. By these pillars the Yolish become one people. This meal is endless in all time. Let all the ages pass, yet all those heroes born in after days will wish themselves seated upon the lowest seat of the Hall of Hala, to be in our presence. Born of fear was my desire to see this land in one hall. But in glory unending shall be these great days. In this hall sits Kellach, warrior of such great strength and cunning that no bear may ever defeat him, no fox outwit him. Beside him the wise man of Isle Melach, whose wisdom is greater than all other men together. Neola the fair and Illulium the awe-filled live here, making this hall most beautiful of all gardens. Malach king reigns here, and his hall all the lands, and in his hall no man goes without food or has want of mead. Great was this feast, and though they were in number fewer than his wedding, the host drank more mead than before. Kellach alone drank more than half the island had at the wedding of Malach and Neola. At his side the sword of Malach, given to him, forged 4 years prior when a bone demon from the deep sea washed upon the shores of Eoland. Many trembled at the sight, but Malach named the happening fortunate, and had the long horn cut off and made into the handle of a sword, and given to Kellach to keep Malach's peace. Only 3 times did he draw it, and never did it drink blood. So well he kept peace. It was in the early hours of dawn that the host of Mebebd arrived as thieves to the Hall of Hala, having left the lands of Helm Hylas 3 days thence, taking great care that their movements go unmarked. Their reaving host fell upon any that saw them, so that the men in the Hall of Hala knew nothing of their approach. The cries of Neola were great and terrible, and all those awake listened eagerly to hear the cry of Malach's child, but heard in his stead the war cry of the thieves. In a fury the raiders burst upon the hall and began their pillage. Mebebd sought not to become Telach above all Telachs, as Malach had, nor to rule wisely, only to take his hearth and hall, to hold in her hands all the works of Malach and claim them as her own. She sent her people to take the crops, and a number of warriors to take the livestock of the Wîlad Isal, the bull Don Karacht the great prize, for it was the bull of Malach, and the selfsame beast whose offspring were given to them without conquest. But the bull would not be subdued with ease, and killed 70 men before exhausting itself, and the reavers could carry it off. In the Hall of Hala blood flowed as free as the mead, for though caught unawares, the men of the Wîlad Isal were great in numbers, and beside them the Amach-Es fought with that which they could find, for no weapon was permitted in the Hall of Hala, save only the sword of the champion, Kellach. Yet Kellach had drunk too much, and when war came was found in a servant's cot, and could not be roused. Though no man of them lived through the day, it was known that the people of Amach-Es, even the women, fought as no other could fight. Their blood was fierce, and burned with a rage which could forge iron. Many raiders fell before their iron. Close were they packed in the Hall of Hala, in a melee without order as the raiders of Helm Hylas entered wherever they could. Into the chamber of Neola came the reavers and speared her as a hind. Her last terrible cry shrilly ended. Malach, in sorrowed rage, saw his house fall to ruin, for even the great power of the wise man of Isle Melach was brought to its ending. Malach was kind, but on hearing the final breath of his wife above the din of war, and seeing the many pillars of his house fall before him, a rage came over him, for he had in him the strength of his father, and through his blood the power of the Baith. So in his final rage he seemed to grow to giant size, and with his hands bare battled 12 men, his teeth his swords, and many were stabbed. One still stood supporting the house of Eoland. Malach cried for Kellach, the last cry of a trapped stag calling for his brother. Kellach was roused from his slumber to see the house of his lord and brother burned before him, those he stood champion for dead at his feet. In the fallen timbers and blood, through the ashes dancing at the ruin of Malach, Kellach saw the child Illulian, who stood watching her house burn. Drunk though he still was, Kellach rushed to Illulian, and spirited her from the Hall of Hala, the sword of the champion battling its way through the sacred halls, slaying all who stood before it, friend or foe, and into the lands surrounding fled. Malach battled against the horde, even when his arm was severed by blades, until the flames consumed the timbers of the Hall of Hala, and they fell down upon him. The looters of Helm Hylas ravaged its corpse, pulling gold from the mighty ribs. Malach's body was found and humiliated, and the ring taken from his hand and given to Telach Mebebd. The host returned to Helm Hylas in a riot, and at her seat she donned the ring and claimed herself to be the Telach above all Telachs. They gave not a proper burial to any, friend or foe, leaving them to the carrion birds, cursing their spirits from going beyond the island. To her prized warriors she gave the livestock of the wee Lyde Saul, and to the greatest of these she gave Don Coracht, the bull which made Malach king. This was the cursed Reich, and he became hers. The fire of the Hall of Hala spread. Word of the fate of Malach came to each Tella. The land fell into chaos as each claimed to be High King. The few of the Amach Es who remained fortified their home and would not let any enter. Kellach ran with Alulian through the night of fire and blood, choking smoke and ash, felling those who came against him with a power so swift they could not see it. Such was the speed of the dread hand of Kellach. Desperation and despair drove him as he clawed his way from the ruin of Eoland. Sun and moon rose and fell in the sky unmarked by him. He ran on, the child in his arms, until after time uncounted he stumbled. Recognizing his own weariness, he stopped for brief rest in a dense grove, placing Alulian down that she might rest also, his sword drawn, that he might rise swiftly from his sleep to battle. But before he rested, he spoke to the child. The isle is broken, and all the good which your father created destroyed by fools and thieves. We shall be a ruined people, a people long suffering. This burden shall remain to blacken our hearts until we are redeemed. Though what could save the Olish from this crime I cannot see. Our guilt shall rack us as we strive forward from that dark deed. But long shall it be ere we forget the peace of Malach and what it brought us. Yet you do not live beneath this guilt. Your heart remains sinless. You alone are free of this burden. It is we who have failed you, last of the Weleidasal, to walk this green isle. I plan now to take you to my people, the Drocht Balon, for I fear that your kin did not survive in great numbers, and are too weak now to hide you from harm. Yet my people are as of yet unmarked by the turmoil, and by reaching them with swiftness we can stave the fall of one Tella. There you shall be raised, protected from harm as the traitors who cast this terrible crime on Eoland shall be destroyed. So rest now and worry no more. Here he dropped from exhaustion, and there he rested a full day. But Alulian knew no rest. Ever before her eyes was the ruin of her house, the final anguish of her mother, and she wept until she had no tears left. It was there, beside the sleeping Kellach, that Alulian met the Baith. First she was afraid of the figures who came before her, thinking them to be the warriors who had orphaned her, but she could not run, for they surrounded her, rising from the trees, and her screams could not wake Kellach. Their faces were strange, gaunt and fierce. Tall they stood, taller than any man, and their eyes burned red. Yet about them was a strange beauty, the beauty of the earth itself, of flowers after rain. And as she looked, she grew less afraid of the strange people, and especially for one who seemed kindlier than the others, in whose face Alulian saw her father. Slowly this Baith reached forward and gave to the child her hand, which, though frightened, she took. And in a gentle voice the Baith witch sang, "Child, blood of Baith born brought by bounded fate here, long on Lark's ell from lost languishing to the land of kings crowned in combat. Clear from the clashing the bear has bolted before breaking from his burden. Rest now, retreat no further, Rela. Rest and revenge shall swift see you stand. Sorrow shall not sustain you, as revived rises the ravager, the reaver, doom-caller, damning and damned by the deceitful to perish as they pluck the prize so pridefully. You, child, chance brings much challenge and change ere she grants guardianship o'er ground and sky. Blood must bury by blood before the Baith grant their gifts. Time is short, the good God comes. Gather yourself, we must go." The Baith took Alulian to the Hall of Hala, leaving Kellach where he lay, and there sang the Song of the Rains. Their tears drowned the embers of the hall and gave them rest. The Baith then gathered the slain who had been disgraced without burial and gave each a barrow, a home for all time. They sang songs of sorrow as each mound rose from the soft earth, doors of stone carved with runes of easing, calling the dead to rest in honor. And the smallest among them was buried as a king. But for Malach and Niolo the barrows were made to be larger than all others who had yet lived, the stone doors twice the size of a man. Around the hill of Halla the barrows were set, and in days after the Yolish were afraid to enter the grave of the Wîlad Isal, for it is said that the dead seek vengeance for the disgrace they suffered by the raiders, and hold all Yolish guilty from the doom of the hall of Halla. Their labour done, the Baith each entered the barrows, and the kindly Baith took Ilulian by the hand and led her into the barrow of Malach. In Helm Hylas, Telach Mebebd sat herself above all others and wore brazen the ring of Malach, and each day praising the arm of Reich, that only he might be her consort by virtue of his strength. In her unending praise of Reich, giving gifts of gold and herds of cattle to him alone, was born a hatred for her, for she would not see virtue in any other, and her poor rule threatened the timbers of her hall, even as it was threatened from without. The death of Malach was known throughout the entire island, and war lived in the home of peace. Each Tella claimed to be the heir of the Wîlad Isal and the true friend of Malach. Each claimed the right of revenge against the house of his enemy. The anger Telach Mebebd bred into her people grew into a dark serpent of malice, which coiled its way around her hall until her people desired for nothing but her death, though none had the will to stand against Reich. It was one of her many charlatans, of whom she was fond, named Keldiar, who had long sought to sit beside her at the mead bench, who could no longer resist his hatred, and in the last hour of the night in secret drew himself to her chamber, and with vengeful dagger stole her life, even as Reich slept beside her, taking from her body the ring of Malach before he fled. The rage of Reich shook the Helm Hylas when he discovered his love slain beside him and the great prize removed. He drew his sword and slew each charlatan in the land before he took after the thief, searching for the ring. The charlatan was far from Helm Hylas, fleeing with great speed, eager to use his prize in safety, to bend the boon to his will and increase his false powers through it. But news quickly reached him of the rage of the hunter, that he was tracked as a sow by hounds, and he fled further, hiding in the great forest which grew on the sides of the Isle Melach, and there waited for his hunter's rage to pass, though poorly did he judge the skill of Reich. It is from the unloving land of Helm Hylas that great hunters were made, for they can run a full day, needing only an hour's rest before continuing their chase. Wily are they, having great knowledge of traps, for they have little skill in wedding the cow to the plough and grow little. They have in them a great mistrust of others and a shrewd sense of smell. It is by his ability that Reich found the charlatan quickly, but could not catch him unaware. So swift had Reich come that the charlatan had only finished his hiding and set his watch when the trees brought rumor of the hunter's approach. He fled with Reich behind him, and in terror he flung the ring into the forest, marking the place, before running deeper into the woods. Reich would not allow his quarry to flee and soon caught him, as the terror of the charlatans drove him carelessly crashing through the forest, leaving many traces of his passing. Reich slew him without a word, and left his body to fester. But denied the ring, he flew into a rage, searching each warren and hollow, but found it not, though he searched for a year. He returned to his people and found them in chaos, preying on one another, taking from kin where before they took from others. But at his coming they gathered to him, sensing a great doom which rose from him as a fire, being bound to it, and they listened to his words. Blood for blood, an old currency and just, the language of all men and unendingly true. This price is paid, for he that took the life of Mebebd has given his life to me. This debt paid, but more does he owe us, for he hid from us the ring of Mebebd, her great gift, that which belonged to her alone and has not been returned to me, her heir. And so I will hunt it till my body melts from my bones. But I will not hunt alone. Each of you will be beside me, hunting with me, as ceaselessly as me, never resting till the ring is ours again. I will bind you to me. Your strength will be mine, and you will live forever in me. What have you to lose? For since the death of the Telach there has been no life in this land, no end to the days of death which have plagued you, as your brothers take your livestock. Now I call you to honor her and bind to me." Before they could move, he began by that twisted power taken from the charlatans of that wretched land a dark song of chains, each word swirling about them and binding them where they stood, all the while listening as the dark figure chanted their fate, vowing that they would not rest till he held in his hand the ring. As the words fell out of his mouth and poisoned the earth, they did not flee, though they trembled in fear. And as the final words were spoken, the diseased knowledge of the charlatans reached into their bodies and grabbed hold of their souls in their sacred dwelling and tore them from their homes, their bodies falling dead to the earth, their strength chained to the cursed spot on his heart, where in a swirling tempest they were bound to aid him in his search, as in howling madness the hunter was born amid the bodies. End. Book 1. The Ring of Daenthar Dween was written and performed by Michael Frutig. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the project on Patreon. Supporters get text files of each chapter, as well as access to Q&A posts, other writing projects, such as flash fiction and chapters of other works. Go to patreon.com/michaelfrutig for more. patreon.com/MICHAELFRUTIG. Thank you.